move! Don't move!
Andrew! No!
My name is Edward Daniels! This one's loaded. I can tell by the way.
Teddy Daniel, a U.S. Marshal, investigated a patient named Rachel Solando in a mental institution called Shutter Island that is located on a remote island. He is accompanied by his partner Chalk All. Since he's up on the island, he already has a bad feeling about the mental institution, and he also realizes a lot of odd things about this institution. He began to interview patients and nurses about Rachel's disappearance. But when someone is interviewed by Teddy, they always have weird reactions every time the patients or the nurses are interviewed and being asked what Rachel Solando looks like. This raises more suspicion from Teddy that there is something going wrong about this institution. Throughout his investigation, he often gets a glimpse of his dead wife, who died in a fire in their apartment building. He also often has a nightmare of his wife and his trauma during World War II, when he massacred a Nazi soldier and watched a lot of dead bodies in front of him. Throughout the movies, they discover strange things in the institution, and Teddy realizes that the institution hides something from them. Especially, two patients told him that the lighthouse is a place for a lobotomy experiment, and they do the experiment to the visitor of the island that will be trapped on the island for this experiment. This raises Teddy's suspicion even more, and he decided to find the truth about the lighthouse. When he enters the lighthouse to find the truth about the lighthouse, he instead finds the truth that he is the 67th patient. His real name is Andrew Ladies, and his partner, Chuck, is a psychiatrist that has been treating him since he was put on the island. The story of him being the U.S. Marshal that investigates Shutter Island is Dr. Shields' last effort to treat Andrew Ladies before Andrew gets lobotomized and the effort is failed. The next day, he wakes up from the bed and seems like he has accepted the truth. When he walks out of the room, he's approached by the doctors, and then the movie ends. This movie's ending leaves the audience with multiple questions about the movie and have a lot of different interpretation by the audience depending on their point of view. But what is actually the main point of the movie and the themes of the movie that the director Martin Scorsese is trying to tell us? In this video, we're going to break down the themes and the psychology of this movie, and also a little bit of explanation of the ending. The main theme of this movie is trauma. The movie is actually trying to depict a mental disorder called PTSD through the main character, Teddy, who is revealed to be Andrew Ladies, that shows a lot of symptoms of PTSD. Before we analyze PTSD symptoms in Andrew Ladies, we must know the definition of PTSD first. According to Health Direct, post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a treatable anxiety disorder that happens when fear, anxiety, and memories of traumatic events don't go away. The feeling lasts for a long time and interfere with how people cope with everyday life. Andrew's PTSD is caused by his trauma during World War II, when he brutally killed Nazi soldiers and watched a lot of dead bodies in the concentration camps. But the main trauma that caused the PTSD is actually the lake incident when his wife, Dolores Chanel, played by Michelle Williams, drowned their kids in the lake and triggered Andrew to shoot her, leaving Andrew wounds of trauma, grief, guilt from that incident. Andrew's trauma also causes another mental illness for Andrew, and that is called schizophrenia, when he keeps hallucinating his dead wife and he cannot tell the difference which one is real and which one is his hallucination. Since then, he has put on Shutter Island for 2 years, where he kept denying the truth about himself, and he dared to attack someone who tried to tell him the truth. Before we're going depth into the details of the movie, we'll have to break down the symbolism in this movie. This movie has a lot of symbolism that connects to the main themes of the movie. And understanding the symbolism used in this movie will help us to understand the main themes of this movie and going depth into the details of the movie. The main symbolism that frequently used in this movie are water and fire. Water and fire are the symbolism that are used a lot to distinguish reality and hallucination. Water represents reality because he has trauma of water due to the lake incident. On the other hand, fire represents his delusion and hallucination caused by his denial of his reality. These two symbols play a big role in distinguishing reality and fantasy. So every time we see water in a scene in the movie, it means that it's reality and the truth. And every time we see fire in any form, that means it's hallucination and fantasy that is created by Andrew Ladies. This movie has also a lot of details that we don't notice when we first watch the movies. These details also provide clues of the plot twist and also shows the sign of PTSD. So we are going to break it down for you. The first detail is that the fact that Teddy is always guarded. One of the clues to him being patient in this institution is the fact that he is always on guard everywhere he goes. It's not because he is a U.S. Marshal, because he is the patient and even the most dangerous patient in the institution and can do crazy things if he is not controlled. So to keep him under control, they always have him on guard wherever he goes. It also explains the scene when Teddy starts to show aggressive behavior during the interview with the male patient, when the guard was about to pull a gun out of his pocket, but he didn't do it when Chuck kept him under control. Number 2, he has trauma involving water. Since the opening of this movie, we are shown that Teddy or Andrew is afraid of water. This is because he has a traumatic event that involves water when he killed his wife that drowned their children in the lake. The other fascinating detail in this movie is the Ward C scene when he meets George Noyes. Noyes actually already reveals the truth that he is in a roleplay of his own imagination to tell him the truth about himself. But after that, he lights up his match, and he somehow changes his statement that he will be put in the lighthouse to be lobotomized, and not longer after that, he also starts to see his wife in the cell. This also shows the symbolism about fire that represents hallucination. Everything changes, and also, it is very unlikely that he holds a pack of matches, considering the action he could do if Andrew has a pack of matches. So seen in Ward C after he lit up the match is only his hallucination. Throughout the movie, we are shown a lot of details of the symptoms of Teddy or Andrew suffering from PTSD. There are actually a lot of symptoms shown in the movie, but we're gonna highlight 3 main symptoms of PTSD that are shown in the movie. The first one is intrusive memories. In the movie, Teddy always has nightmare of his trauma. He kept dreaming of his wife, his children, and his trauma during World War II when he massacred Nazi soldiers. He is haunted by his trauma and grief of losing his entire family in the lake incident. The intrusive memory that people with PTSD usually suffer from is flashback. PTSD patients often have flashback of their traumatic events as if they were happening again. In the movie, he has flashback of the lake incident after Rachel Solando, who was a nurse, pretends to be a patient, starts to talk about Andrew's trauma and reminds him of his wife who drowned his kids in the lake. After that scene, he starts to see the event reoccur in his dream. The other intrusive memory that people with PTSD suffer from is emotional distress when they were reminded of their traumatic event. In the movie, after the interview with Rachel Solandro, when she says she drowned her kids, he starts to have severe migraine and lightning. This is because Rachel reminded him of the lake incident, which is the traumatic event that happened to Andrew. PTSD patients tend to avoid thinking or talking about the traumatic event and avoid places that remind them of the traumatic event. In the movie, when Teddy or Andrew is asked how his wife died, he answers,
"There was a fire at the apartment building while I was at work. 4 people."
Which is also contradictory to the real event that involves water and not fire. Another scene also shown where Teddy is asked about Andrew Ladies. He told Chuck that Andrew is a maintenance man in the apartment. This is a way for Andrew to avoid his past and make up new memories. The last symptoms is changes in physical and emotional reactions. One of the major signs that Teddy suffers from PTSD is his change in physical and emotional reactions. He is always on guard because of how dangerous he is and his action if he is not on guard. Throughout the movie, he is always on guard, since he enters the island for the first time. The other major sign that Teddy suffers from PTSD is his aggressive behavior, especially when someone says something related to the traumatic event. This is shown in the scene where Teddy interviews a male patient and asks him about Rachel Solandro. When he started to insult Rachel Solandro, which is a reference to his original wife Dolores Chanel, Teddy started to show aggressive behavior towards the male patient he interviews. Now it's the ending. The ending of Shutter Island leaves the audience with a lot of question whether or not Andrew already accepted the truth and whether or not he was lobotomized at the end of the movie. There are different opinions regarding the ending, and many people can interpret differently. In my opinion, Andrew already accepted the truth about him. One piece of evidence of this point is that his views of the lighthouse is different. From an isolated, scary lighthouse to just a normal lighthouse that has nothing to hide. However, he still decided to get lobotomized because he realized that living his life would let him live with his hallucination and his trauma forever, and he would rather just get lobotomized than living with his trauma. Shutter Island is a complex psychological movie that leaves the audience with a lot of questions that can be interpreted differently. The point of this movie is to depict the impact of trauma on someone's life and how good people can also be destroyed by trauma. This movie also shows what suffering from PTSD and schizophrenia is like and how we should be aware of the impact of trauma on someone's life. Overall, this movie successfully depicts PTSD by showing the signs of PTSD with the cinematography and also DiCaprio's amazing acting in this movie. This is also why this movie is rated 8.2.
Which would be worse? To live as a monster or to die as a good man?